self-defeating behavior, practical lessons for conquering procrastination, fear, envy, neediness, guilt, and more. Letting others control your life. Letting others control your life. Agnes Repplier says this, and I quote, "It is not easy to find happiness in ourselves, and it is not possible to find it elsewhere. It is not easy to find happiness in ourselves, and it is impossible to find it elsewhere." Fran, a 32-year-old paralegal who called herself the queen of the people pleasers, gets credit for what I call the Cheshire Cat syndrome. She told me that she felt like the feline creature from Alice in Wonderland who would alternate between visible and invisible while its smile would always remain. Fran smiled through all her relationships with parents, bosses, friends, and lovers, but now, in therapy, her face was twisted with pain. "I've become more and more invisible," she said. "I'm afraid I'm going to disappear altogether, and I don't know how to make it stop." Like Fran, many people care so much about what others think of them that they lose track of themselves. It's as if the routine to self esteem passes through a toll booth of other people's opinions, and each time they drive through, they pay with the piece of their identity. Many of the adults I see in therapy are unable to remember much about themselves in childhood, but they remember other people quite vividly. They recall when mom and dad seemed happy or sad, enthused or exhausted, cheerful or angry. This is because they learned as children that the way to feel safe was to do whatever made an angry dad smile or a depressed mom brighten, and how not to make them angry or depressed. Rather than focus on their own sense of vitality, initiative, and growth, their efforts went into making their home calmer and less dangerous. As a result, their sense of worth was determined by what those they depended on felt about them. When their parents seemed happy, they felt worthwhile. When their parents seemed unhappy, they felt they were bad and somehow to blame. Arthur Miller says this, and I quote, "I have not moved from there to here without, I think, to please you. I have not moved from there to here without, I think, to please you, and still an everlasting funeral marches round your heart." Okay. All right. When too much concern with the desires, wishes, and needs of others are carried into adulthood, you can develop a prove, show, hide, please personality. You spend much of your life trying to prove things to others. Show them you're worthy. Hide unpleasant truths from them and please them, all in the effort to feel safe and worthy. When your motivation is to prove yourself to others, that is because you feel they don't believe in you. You think, "I'll prove I'm worthy of their faith." Whereas proving stems from a deep sense of hurt, showing is rooted in anger. It's a response to the perception that others don't believe you, period. Because you think they regard you as a phony or a liar, you constantly have to demonstrate your authenticity. The impetus to hide comes from fear. Believing that another person is intolerant and unforgiving, you are wary of being attacked if you make a mistake. So you live a secret life, hidden from criticism, but also from your true feelings and true personality. The motivation to please usually stems from the feeling that making someone happy is the ticket to being loved and accepted. You appease and pacify to create a cheerful environment, and when you fail, you invariably feel guilty. To a certain extent, most people in close relationships link their well being to the moods of another person. The tragedy occurs when you become so consumed by proving, showing, hiding, and pleasing that you relinquish control of your life, sacrificing your needs and desires on the altar of another. You might be able to rationalize living that way for a while, vowing to get back to your own life one day. But if you wait too long, you might find you have lost your way entirely. Usable insight. You can't live for others without losing yourself. You can't live for others without losing yourself. Take an action. Determine to what extent you are a prove, show, hide, please personality by rating yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 on each of these characteristics. In your most important relationships, how much of your energy is devoted to proving yourself to others, where 0 equals none, and 10 equals all. Once you have the answer, do the same for show, for hide, and for please. If the sum of all four totals is more than 20, you're probably living more for others than yourself. You are squelching your own desires, interests, and ambitions to make someone feel a certain way about you. Realize that you have very little power to make others happy and almost none to keep them happy. Tell the other person that he has done nothing wrong, but that you realize you tend to defer to others more than is good for you. Tell them that from now on you plan to be honest about expressing disagreement and disappointment, and that you hope he will understand. Monitor your follow through by rating yourself once a month as in step 1. And lastly, seek out people who do not expect you to be more to them than you are to yourself. Wow. Seek out people who do not expect you to be more to them than you are to yourself. You may not be attracted to them now because you're drawn to what is familiar, namely people you can please and serve, but the familiar may not be good for you. Letting others control your life. Get out of your own way. Overcoming self-defeating behavior. Practical lessons for conquering procrastination, fear, envy, neediness, guilt, and more. Author Mark Goldstein, MD, and Philip Goldberg.